Welcome to this panel. I'm very grateful that you chose to participate in our conversation among so many other very interesting conversations at this very prestigious, very impressive event. I take the opportunity to congratulate New Strategy Center and its CEO, Mr. George Scutaru, for putting together this very impressive initiative and for executing it so flawlessly. And I'm very pleased to be in such an amazing venue. This is probably one of the most beautiful one can imagine. So I'm Alexandru, REFF. I'm the managing partner of Deloitte in Romania and Moldova. And I have this privilege, this honor to host this discussion about the financing mechanisms and programs for the reconstruction of Ukraine in a great company, in a company of distinguished contributors. So I would introduce them briefly. Mr. Lorenz, GESSNER, the head of office for Ukraine and Moldova at Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau. I apologize I will just refer to your bank as KFW if you don't mind, Mr. GESSNER, going forward. Mr. Bogdan ZAWADEWICZ, Director of Geopolitical Risk Analysis Office at BGK Bank in Poland. Mr. Marius, CARA, Head of Romania Office at the European Investment Bank. Mr. Tetsuo SHIBATA, Director General Japan External Trade Organization in the Kyiv office. And Mr. Davide, CECILIA, Special Envoy for the Reconstruction of Ukraine, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in Italy. As you can see, Mr. GESSNER and Mr. CECILIA are joining us via video conference, whereas the other distinguished guests are with me here in the panel. If you would allow, I'll just make a brief introduction, setting a bit the context with some inspiration from various Deloitte studies that we have done in relation to the reconstruction of Ukraine and the EU integration of Ukraine. Obviously, the scale of the needs of the damage created and of the reconstruction needs is massive. In 2022, Ukraine lost almost a third of GDP, 29%, and although it has recovered somewhat in 23 and 24 at the level of 5.3% and then 3.5%, the GDP, the economy is still at levels below pre-war times. The overall reconstruction needs are obviously fluid, but based on the estimates that I have seen, they exceed $500 million over the next decade or so. And it's mostly related to damaged infrastructure and destruction losses in economic backbone. Of course, the industrial base of Ukraine has been very badly affected by the war. Over 2,000 industrial sites have been destroyed or are discontinued, and some other more than 500 have been displaced. The remaining major contributors to GDP are very much energy-intensive industries such as metals, cement, fertilizers. And that makes the the Ukrainian economy twice as energy intensive as the EU in average, which is obviously a challenge in terms of business continuity. The poverty rate, as you would guess, has risen dramatically from 5.5 prior to the war to 24% in 2022. And this is due to obviously losses of jobs and currency deterioration, devaluation and so on. And then, of course, EU accession path is a huge opportunity, an accelerator of development and recovery. But at the same time, the fact that it unfolds against the background of continued military confrontation combines the difficulty of immediate reconstruction with the difficulty of structural changes which are required by EU accession, as we in Romania know very well. Certainly, there is a huge opportunity in the building back better approach, but it requires scalable, collaborative, multi-stakeholder, long-term agenda and frameworks, and this is what we are here to mostly discuss about. Now, I will just very briefly mention against this background of significant needs some platforms which are most prominent. I cannot mentioned all of them, but certainly massive resources have already been mobilized, and the most prominent forms in which this mobilization is taking place include the Ukraine Donor Platform established by the G7 in 2022, which serves as the central mechanism for coordination and alignment of international support, one which has so far mobilized more than $300 billion. Then the World Bank Group, through IFC and also through the Investment Guarantee Agency, has mobilized also around 80,000 billion in loans and grants. There's a lot of philanthropy going on. There are, between grants and pledges, there are around 8,000 initiatives which have gathered more than 3 billion euros in emergency relief, governance and infrastructure. And then last in my list, but not least for sure, this relatively recently announced initiative of the EU, the flagship fund for the reconstruction of Ukraine, a landmark initiative to accelerate the recovery and also support the integration. It is backed by some 200 million initially in seed capital, and it is expected to close next year, or to have an initial close at the level of 500 billion for major impact driven and strategic initiatives. And actually the representatives that we have today on the panel of some of the most important backers can talk more about that, because EIB, KfW and BGK are all contributing to this effort, which is mainly providing funding for projects in energy, especially renewables, infrastructure, digital transformation, industrial, reconversion and rebirth, and dual-use goods and critical raw materials. Okay, maybe I should not take longer. I had a few more notes about what is happening. Maybe just a brief reference to the fact that public funding is anchoring the reconstruction, but it's not sufficient. It cannot carry it by itself. So there is a strong belief, which we share at Deloitte as well, that public-private partnerships are essential. Based on our assessment, they could provide as much as a third of the need, which is there. And we are supporting that through a pretty significant initiative at global level, the Deloitte Future of Ukraine initiative, mobilizing multidisciplinary expertise across many countries and areas of expertise in, with a base in Kyiv and with leadership out of Poland. So very proud to be contributing as our distinguished guests will talk about their own contributions. So now I turn to the panelists. I thank them very warmly for contributing today, and I will start the discussion with Mr. GESSNER, who's with us online, to talk about SME support, about your experience, KfW's experience and vision for Ukraine entrepreneurship. This segment of the economy, small and medium enterprises, has been your first call in Ukraine for now some 25 years. The business development fund that you created in partnership with the Ukrainian government has been the bedrock for supporting the first generation of Ukrainian entrepreneurs. How has the role evolved? How has the war changed your vision and your priorities in this space?
So I hope you can hear me.
Not so well, I'm afraid. I don't know if we can turn a bit louder the sound.
Check.
Can you please speak such that we...
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. I hope the audience can hear as well. I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Sorry for the sound. So, yeah, thank you, Alexandru, first of all, for inviting me to this important event dedicated to Ukraine. And I think you have mentioned already a lot what is done actually by KfW Bank. So as you correctly mentioned, we have been supporting Ukraine in the field of SME since quite 3 decades already. And there has been a significant support connected to the PDF, which originally was the Ukrainian German fund back at the beginning of the 90s, and now was renamed to the BDF, and which will be renamed at the 1st of January into the national development institution. So that will be the new, let's say, financing arm for Ukraine, for local SMEs. So maybe let me give a quick update where we stand with this stream, because this is our main engagement in Ukraine related to SME. So Germany is supporting the National Development Institution actually in two parallel streams at the moment. So that's first focusing on the NDI's institutional capacity, and second on the financial capacity. So the first initiative on the institutional capacity was launched at the EuroC last year, 2024 in Berlin, and the second in Rome this year on the financial capacity. The first stream, which we are currently following, is at the EuroC, is also Vision. It's called BDF Vision 2.0. And here we are actually comprehensively upgrading the functioning of the BDF, or the future NDI, in becoming a national institution. And the effort focused on optimizing mainly the mandate of the institution, the business model, and the legal framework. So there's still a lot to do in order to make it an institution also reliable for the reconstruction of the country. In this context, we have already started this year with an independent supervisory board with three independent supervisory members and two representatives from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Economy. And they have already started their work related to these different efforts, mandate, business model, and legal framework. And currently, we are implementing the so-called 5-year strategy with a transformation roadmap together with your colleagues from Ukraine, from Deloitte, together with the management board and the supervisory board. So this shall be ready next, I think, second quarter 2026. So that's related to that, and we will further try to support the NDI to be a more productive partner for the Ukrainian government and the donors, and of course the local SMEs. And secondly, also important to mention, we are trying to support the BDF NDI to undergo the EU pillar assessment for the Ukraine investment facility. So that might become the first Ukrainian entity to get qualified directly to access EU funding. This is like a midterm, I think, term time frame. And long term, the idea is that the NDI in the future will also be able to issue bonds, green bonds, impact bonds, in order to get their refinancing on the capital market. So that's, both achievements are under this Vision 2.0. And specifically what we have been doing regarding financing, we have prepared a new facility for the BDF, which is called SME Resilience Facility, amounting to close to 50 million for this year. And this program tackles the Ukrainian banks and SMEs with most critical needs. That's long-term liquidity for the banks and providing long-term loans, and addresses to long-term liquidity component. And the second is that we are trying to establish a guarantee scheme, a so-called loan portfolio guarantee scheme, together with the BDF for these SMEs, especially at the front line, so that banks are more reliable in giving loans also to small and medium-sized business in the eastern part of Ukraine. So we are quite also confident that this program will benefit and optimize the lending procedures. So yeah, and this initiative, just to mention here, is open also to other donors. So it's not a German or KfW project, but here we are also looking forward for future funding from other donors, in order to support this initiative together with BDF. So maybe that's a short summary from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gessner. Please stay with us, because I'll come back to you after the first round of inputs from the panelists. And I would suggest we stick with the topic of SMEs and business cooperation more broadly, and I would go to Mr. ZAWADEWICZ and ask him in the context in which Poland is the gateway for much of the humanitarian flows and then also much of the trade with Ukraine. How is BGK facilitating this cross-border cooperation, maybe more broadly and more specifically, how do you support Ukrainian SMEs?
Right, so thank you for this question. So we have multiple financial instruments which are dedicated to different entities, also different types of SMEs, either Ukrainian or Polish. Also what matters is whether the project is in Ukraine or in Poland. Speaking on the Polish SMEs or the possible Polish-Ukrainian joint ventures, this year we introduced the preferential loans program for the companies interested in capex investment. So these are investment loans, very attractive ones, where the companies can actually, well, there are several conditions, but general objective is to support the companies which are interested in developing trade relations with the Ukrainian partners. They want to invest in their production capacities, and they are interested in taking part in the so-called reconstruction or modernization of Ukraine. So here we have the budget of the program is about 30 million euro. Although we are considering to increase the budget because there's a huge interest in it. So far we have received the applications of the total worth of almost 100 million euro. So this shows you how many companies in Poland or Polish-Ukrainian joint ventures operating in Poland actually how many of them are interested in already actually have some established trade relations with the partners from Ukraine. If you look at the profiles of these companies, they are mostly from the sector of the medical and equipment and the construction materials. So this is like one instrument. Then we do have, we provided the financial the loans, right, to the Polish construction company that is involved in building the new cross-border checks, right? So there's a Polish construction company. It was based on the Polish-Ukrainian intergovernmental agreement. We provided the financing, and thanks to this, I mean, it has this logistical and transportation dimension, but thanks to this project, the transportation through the borders should be much more efficient. Then we have the whole set of instruments dedicated to Ukrainian SMEs. We started in 2023 in cooperation with Kreditanstalt. Kreditanstalt is the Ukrainian bank, which is owned by another Polish state bank, PKO BP. And we provided the guarantees together with European Commission, helping the Kreditanstalt to actually continue their lending activities in the so-called high-risk regions. This is the so-called red and yellow regions. And as far as I know, that was the first such initiative, such program in Ukraine back then. Then in the meantime, or since then, we expanded the program. We also teamed up with Privatbank, got a top-up from European Commission, and we extended the whole project. And now we are in the preparations for, probably this will take place, will eventually happen in the first half of next year. We'll start in the cooperation with a larger group of Ukrainian banks. We'll start offering the guarantees. Guarantees are mostly for reducing the costs of borrowing for the companies, for increasing the number of companies which actually get access to financing. So this will be those will go through the so-called Ukrainian facility, Pillar 2. This will be also mostly the investment loans for SMEs, and most likely there will also be these instruments will also be dedicated to the entities, to the SMEs from the from the high risk areas. So speaking of the SMEs, these are the most important instruments that we offer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zawādēvics. Let us now talk about EU-level reconstruction financing, and I will ask Mr. CARA, in the context in which EIB already has a major portfolio of projects in transport, energy, municipal reconstruction. What are the next priority areas for the bank?
Thanks, Alex, and you're right. Very honored and glad to represent the EIB in this panel. And there was a very interesting panel which I attended, the very first panel of the morning, which was the political one. As you can imagine, there was no full agreement between the panelists, but one message which seemed to be uncontroversial was that we have to wait for the ceasefire, for the war to end, then for a just and durable peace, and then to start the effort of reconstruction. But Mr. Halaichuk from the Committee of EU Integration in Ukraine said that actually we can't really wait for that, and we have to start, or we have to work and fund the reconstruction as we speak in order to help Ukraine to sustain its effort. And actually this is the philosophy that the EIB has embraced from the very first moments after the beginning of the conflict. In fact, in less than 2 months after the conflict ignited, we were able, by repurposing and reprioritizing existing agreements, to come and contribute with funds to Ukraine. In 2025, we have signed more than 1.7 billion, both for private sector and public sector in Ukraine. And that is comparable with the amount that we are doing in Romania, by the way. And that in the context where the EIB is the EU bank and 90% of our volumes, generally speaking, go to the EU member states. Now, coming back to these signatures, we have deployed them for a wide diversity of instruments, not only classic loans, but also private equity and export credit guarantee, which is an instrument that the EIF put together, the EIF being our subsidiary, and to which banks from several countries, including Romania, I think there's Exim Bank in Romania, provide export guarantees for companies who either want to go and invest or are suppliers for Ukraine. At the level of disbursements, we have disbursed this year alone 450 million. As you rightly said, this went mainly to energy, municipal infrastructure, and SMEs. And let's say the instruments based on which we rely to be able to lend in Romania, of course, were the Ukraine Investment Facility, which is the guarantees provided by the EU budget, and this is almost fully deployed, and this allows us to build a pipeline for 2026-2027 of almost 1.6 billion, so yet to be deployed. But in parallel, the EIB has set up a trust fund, which is called EU for Ukraine Trust Fund, and which is open to the member states' contributions. I think 16 member states have already contributed. It can be funded or unfunded contributions, so liquidity or guarantees. And again, this will work as a bridge until the next MFF, the next EU budget, comes into place.
Thank you, Marius. That is impressive. Mr. SHIBATA, we could focus maybe for a moment on industrial modernization through business partnerships. Could you share some examples of how cooperation between Japan and Ukraine can lead to, through these business partnerships, can lead to industry modernization, and how in particular JETRO and the Japanese government are assisting firms to move from a general interest to a concrete involvement in such progress in Ukraine?
Thanks, Alex. Thank you very much. The JETRO, maybe, do you know anything about JETRO? I'm afraid maybe not so many people know about JETRO. JETRO is a governmental agency to promote business, trade and investment. We have more than 70 offices all over the world. We have an office in Bucharest too. She's my colleague, and she's the head of the Bucharest. And then maybe you know about JICA. JICA is very popular. Japan International Cooperation Agency. He's my colleague, and then he's a representative of Ukraine. And JBIC is a bank, Japan Bank for International Cooperation. And JETRO is Japan External Trade Organization. Like these three organizations under the Japanese government, we work closely. Like we like the three musketeers. So today, I would like to tell you, share with you what Japanese companies doing now and what we do to help them. So I will use my slides, okay? Okay. Okay, maybe the letter is very small, but this is Japanese companies operating now in Ukraine. Now we have more than 40 Japanese companies, and then mostly like trading and manufacturing, trading, distributing, and manufacturing. Some of them doing agribusiness and IT. Yeah, there's a variety of business they are doing. And then I would like to emphasize that no one company exit from Ukraine, even under this difficult situation. They maintain their business, and they're maintaining employment, actually. And actually, some of them, they are enjoying the good sale because of the special demand, special procurement in Ukraine. For example, Japanese cars are selling very well, actually, in Ukraine under this situation. So today, I would like to tell you later about our concept, plus one. The plus one concept is that business partnership is very, very important for business in Ukraine. But sometimes, maybe oftentimes, not only Ukrainian company, Japanese company, I mean, the bilateral partnership cannot make it real. So we would like to invite third party, maybe like kind of missing a piece of puzzle. So maybe we can invite the Romanian companies too for this plus one concept later. I will explain you later. Yes, JETRO, we just opened our office in Kyiv last October. And then Prime Minister of Ukraine requested Prime Minister to Japan to open our office in Ukraine. So our Prime Minister responded to it. And then we bring Japanese business person to Ukraine oftentimes. You know that like seeing is like believing. If you see the news in Japan, I think everyone say that it is nonsense to do business, to start a business in Ukraine right now. But actually, it is reality is not like that actually. So everyone, when they visit Ukraine, they will see the potential of business, and also they see the business happening there actually. You know that in every night there's an air alert, there's a Russian attack. So actually many people, people in Ukraine cannot sleep under the danger, but they try their best to live like as usual, to work as like usual, to make money as like usual. So that is the reality. So we try to let Japanese company know this reality. So yes, and also we do business matching, not only in Ukraine, but also in Tokyo. And sometimes we do in another country like Roma, Italy, last summer. And then we try to select the good Ukrainian companies. We do screening, we do background check before I introduce Ukrainian company to Japanese companies. This is the Japanese companies we brought to Ukraine as a business mission participant. And then many kind of business, trade and investment companies, logistics, and then also the construction materials, housing, the energy-related business, and agribusiness, and some companies like Medotech, the medical field. So some of them already set up their business in Ukraine. Some they already opened their office in Ukraine. So not only JETRO, Japanese government, the METI is Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industry. They support Japanese company willing to contribute reconstruction Ukraine, the BBB, Build Back Better in Ukraine. So these companies were selected by Japanese government, almost like more than 50 Japanese companies. And then Japanese company allocated budget around totally $400 million for them, for FS in Ukraine. The objective of this supporting project is, there's two objectives. One is technology transfer from Japan to Ukraine. Most of all the Japanese companies have cutting-edge technology to transfer to Ukraine. And then second objective is to co-creation new business. So together with Ukrainian companies, Japanese company will make a new business, new market. This is the concept of this supporting project. And the top of this group, they already have a project in Ukraine, in Ukrainian countries. Basically in Kyiv, in the capital, also in the Lviv, and some of them, they are looking for the possibility to do some business in southern part. And then bottom, you can see the big name of Japanese companies. These companies have a project not only in Ukraine, but also in the neighboring countries like Poland, Romania. You can see Kawasaki Heavy Industry, they have a project in Romania. They are doing project in Romania. They like to do some project in Romania to contribute to Ukrainian reconstruction indirectly. So these Japanese companies are supported by Japanese government financially. So my conclusion is, as I told you before, not only Japan and Ukraine, we need a third party to make project more feasible and bankable. And then, so maybe we can find a third party in Romania, or maybe this area, country in this area, and we are welcoming your proposal and your participation. And I can say that if we go together, maybe we can success, and if we go together, we can win. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shibata. This was very comprehensive. And now I would like to thank Mr. La CECILIA for gracefully waiting such that we can move to the topic of the reconstruction pipeline. I hope we still have Mr. La CECILIA with us online.
I'm here, Alex.
We just don't see you for some reason on our screen, but hopefully the video will come up. Yes, we do see you now. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Italy has been committing very substantial financial support to Ukraine and has been co-leading the G7 donor coordination efforts. How is that translating into a tangible reconstruction pipeline?
Okay, thank you very much, Alex, for having me in this panel. I apologize not to be there in person. I'm very happy to participate in this meeting. By the way, we have a connection with all the participants in the meeting because we are partner in the European Equity Fund with KfW and BGK. We we are subscribing the EU for Ukraine program of the European Investment Bank. I have also personal relations with JETRO. I served in Tokyo as at the embassy in the economic sector, and I must say it's very, very impressive to see the board that Shibata-san show us with all the big numbers of Japanese companies committed in Ukraine already. This is an example that we should absolutely follow, and I'm very much in agreement with him that we need more feasible, more bankable projects. That's a line of work we are carrying out together with our Ukrainian friends in the Ukrainian donor platform, and it is very important for our companies to count on single project pipelines in order to understand where to invest into the country. But let me say in more general terms that it is very important that this meeting takes place here in Romania. Romania has been a very important hub for aid to Ukraine as an important springboard for investments into Ukraine. This is a role which obviously supported by geography, the Danube, the sharing of the Black Sea corridors. Many important companies have set up their headquarters here, and it's also very consistent with the policy from Bucharest of siding with Kyiv in this dramatic conflict. Just a few days ago, we were in Bucharest with Gheorghe Scutaro for the strategic dialogue with your foreign minister in order to see how Italy and Romania could partner in supporting Ukraine. We have very important deadlines as Europeans ahead of us. The first one is the European Council on the 18th of December. There we need to take important decisions about continuing financing, continuing funding Ukraine, and finance. The very title of this panel, finance mechanism and program supporting, is key to the success of Ukraine recovery and reconstruction. You said at the beginning, Alex, that according to the World Bank, the assessment for Ukrainian reconstruction needs is over 500 billion. This is something which cannot be done without the business sector. The participation of private capital is absolutely key to this regard, in order to make the reconstruction successful. We need to mobilize business. This was one of the main goals of the Ukraine Recovery Conference, which took place in Rome in July this year, with the participation also of a large Romanian delegation led by Foreign Minister Tetsuo. Italy has contributed on such occasion 350 million euros were pledged, bringing the total of our contribution to 3 billion. And now we are working, by the way, on an energy emergency package to tackle the dramatic situation in the country. And one of the dimensions on which we mostly work at the Ukraine Recovery Conference was exactly how to put financial and insurance instruments at the disposal of the participation of the private sector in the reconstruction projects. You know that at the European level there is this Ukraine investment framework worth 50 billion euros, which is up and running. The second pillar organized to mobilize public and private investments for the country's recovery, reconstruction, and modernization has a total amount of 90 billion euros. We were able already to spend 70% of this amount. This facility has a capacity to mobilize 4 times the amount of investment in the new programs worth 720 million euros. Our projection is that they could generate more than 2 billion investments in different sectors. And you recalled also the European Flagship Fund, which is of strategic importance, will offset, of course, partially the lack of private capital in the countries. This was launched by an initiative of Italy, France, Germany, and Poland with their DFIs and the contribution, a very important contribution of the European Commission and the European Investment Bank, is worth 220 million euros. At the moment, the capacity of mobilization is $500 million in investment with the potential to scale beyond 1.5 to 2 billion euros. At the moment, we are discussing the governance of the fund. We have we selected one manager for the fund, and now we are going through the due diligence process. The idea is to keep the fund up and running by the URC 2026 in Poland, and of course we are looking to enlarge the fund to have a larger capacity of mobilizing capitals, including with other European partners. So this is a message that I want to launch today. And of course, financial instruments and insurance is only one condition for the reconstruction. If you ask business, and I close here my remarks, the number one condition is the end of the conflict. The second condition is a substantial improvement of the business environment. And maybe I will say something about it in the second round.
Thank you very much, Mr. La CECILIA. I hope we indeed get through the second round, because I think I may have been a bit optimistic when I put together the flow. We have now apparently only about 11 minutes, so maybe we can rush somewhat through the second round of answers. And I will stay online and invite Mr. GESSNER to address the very important topic of the energy system recovery. Mr. GESSNER, are you still with us?
Yes, yeah, I'm still with you.
So clearly energy remains a top issue in Ukraine, and the country is challenged from both the perspective of restoring the destroyed capabilities, the recover this damaged infrastructure, and at the same time converting from this highly centralized generation to a more to a smaller, to a greener, to a more distributed type of energy generation. How are you helping in this regard?
Oh, okay, thanks for the question, Alexandru. So, yeah, I mean, all of us, we know that the attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure have been devastating and have, I mean, devastating consequences. So I think 70% of energy generation capacity has been destroyed, and the damage has exceeded, I think, more than $20 billion. And it's, I mean, the intensity has increased. We hear this also from our colleagues in Kyiv. The prolonged power outages, supply is less, and only for a couple of hours a day. So KfW is actually also involved in the energy sector since 2006, and actually in two streams. So not so much really on decentralized energy supply, but more in two ways. One way is in the cooperation with Ukrenergo, which is the state-owned energy grid operator. And here we have really intensified our cooperation since the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine. So since we are supporting Ukrenergo actually in maintaining the system to modernize it, also the substations especially, and procure critical equipment such as auto transformers, which are heavily destroyed, especially in the beginning of the war. So we are able really to have this emergency support to this electricity provider, and that really much helps to somehow stabilize quickly the grid. But apart from that, we are also supporting Ukrenergo in expanding the overhead transmission lines and upgrading them, making them more efficient. That's maybe going into the direction of your question. So this is actually our way how we are supporting Ukrenergo with regard to energy efficiency. So upgrading also transmission lines, and which actually also go to Europe. So we have been supporting just recently the connection also to Europe with a transmission line, and we are also continuing with that with another one. So integrating the Ukrainian grid system into the European grid system. So that's also very helpful, especially if Ukraine needs energy from Europe. So that's actually our main task with Ukrenergo. We have also supported recently physical protection measures at the substations, especially to reduce the risk of damage, drones and missile attacks. This has also been successfully supporting and maintaining, especially with the auto transformer at the substations. The second window is, just quickly to mention, is the Ukraine Energy Support Fund, which has an outstanding volume from Germany of more than 300 million already. So the Energy Support Fund is managed by the Secretariat of the European Energy Community and was established 2022 to counteract actually the effects of the Russian attacks on the energy infrastructure. And this pool of funds helps Ukrainian companies in the field of energy and heat generation, distribution, and energy to carry out urgently needed quick repairs. So that's a good chance for them also to receive relatively on short notice funding to repair urgent needs. So that's just a quick update on our energy support in Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. Gessner. Thank you so much. The remainder of our conversation will be mostly about EU integration, so I would go back to Mr. ZAWADEWICZ and ask him how are you aligning your funding priorities with need to achieve the reforms and the standards which are required for the EU integration of Ukraine.
So very quickly, so there's this Ukraine facility instrument which I mentioned, and there's a pillar 2 which we participate in, and in the whole instrument there's incorporated the conditionality mechanism. Every 3 months Ukraine is assessed by European Commission on the matter of the reform progress. I mean, the recent reports actually are quite optimistic, but the problem in Ukraine today is that, well, even though the reforms are voted in the parliament, there's a huge problem with their implementation and their law enforcement. And this comes from the fact that Ukraine has very limited institutional capabilities. And this is the major issue. Speaking of other things, as I said, I'm quite optimistic. There are a lot of positive developments. Also, we can notice that in the Ukrainian banking sector. Before the war, the banking sector in Ukraine had a rather negative image, I would say. Also, if you look at the number of NPLs, today it's clear that the NPLs have significantly decreased, and the system itself is working much better. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, this provides a very nice bridge to the question for Mr. CARA, because Mr. ZAWADEWICZ mentioned that there is this lack of capacity. So how are you supporting, how is EIB supporting the building of the capacity, the building of the about the preparation of bankable projects that meet the EU standards and comply with the EU expectations.
Indeed, there was a similar question in a previous panel in the room upstairs, I think from Mr. Ene, if I'm not mistaken, saying that, look, there are projects in Ukraine, but they are not quite ready for implementation. And we have, of course, also understood this need, and we set up an advisory envelope for Ukraine under this flagship fund that you mentioned before, which is 100 million of own resources, whereby we try to provide advisory services to build capacity and to improve the quality of the projects. And one of the main instruments is JASPERS. JASPERS is a program that we set up with the Commission 20 years ago, mainly for helping the new EU members to come up to catch up, to come up with the standard in terms of project design and implementation. Hence, the biggest hubs for the JASPERS were in Bucharest, in Warsaw, and in Vienna. And we are actually today exporting this knowledge that we have accumulated in these offices. We have colleagues from our Bucharest office who are traveling to Ukraine to identify projects that could benefit from our support, and this is mainly water and municipal sector, but we're also covering transport and energy from Luxembourg and Vienna. And so we are helping to bring those projects, to make them bankable and to bring them closer to the stage where they are ready to be financed.
Thank you, Mr. CARA. Mr. Shibata, beyond this EU-Ukraine cooperation, there are trilaterals, Japan, EU, Ukraine business formats. Can you talk a little bit, please, about the Plus One initiative, which is quite a remarkable platform, as I understand?
Yes, yeah, I can say that in Ukraine, we can still see the blue ocean. Because it is not so easy to set up the business in Ukraine. Why I say trilateral? For example, the Ukrainian company have, they know the Ukraine, of course, and then they have network. And then Japanese company, they have a technique, and they have maybe capital, equity. But sometimes Japanese company, for them, not so easy to enter, to commute Ukraine. So maybe, and also, actually, honestly, Japan and Ukraine, mentally, really different. So maybe we need someone to intermediate, in the middle. So that's why we are talking about trilateral partnership to make business partnership more strong. And then, so now Blue Ocean getting red now, and then because many competitors now coming into the Ukraine, but there's a huge demand, and then supporting Ukraine through business is very, how to say, it's like sustainable if we can enjoy the win-win situation, and then. This is such a meaningful business, and then it's like a business for justice and peace. So we just like to promote this kind of business in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shibata. We would like to close this panel with Mr. La Cecilia's comments on the same topic of EU accession, which for Ukraine happens during wartime, which obviously puts a lot of stress on both diplomacy and the economy. So how can EU countries offer actionable assistance?
I like to start by recognizing what the other panelists said about conditionality. Conditionality is paramount in order to ensure that the EU accession process of Ukraine will go will go ahead. There are a lot of reforms that Ukraine has already done. The progress is impressive despite the heavy burden of the war, as the European Commission has recognized. So we can say we are on the right track. Our Foreign Minister Tajani always says that the enlargement is a geostrategic investment on the side of the European Union member states. On the other side, the accession must continue to be based on merit. We saw some recent setbacks, some recent scandals, including involving members of the government in sectors which are strategic for the conflict, like energy. But my opinion, a shared opinion, is that we should look at the half-full glass. The system has demonstrated that it has the antibodies in order not to allow this behavior to continue. And this is a message that we are repeated to our Ukrainian friends. It's a matter of trust with regard to the donors in a situation where there is already some donor fatigue, trust business. We don't need this kind of setbacks. And the important thing is also to mobilize, I believe, the different elements of the Ukrainian society, local authorities, the civil society. That's what we did in the Ukraine Recovery Conference, to bring together in an inclusive approach all the stakeholders in order for them to have a role in monitoring the reconstruction, the spending of funds, the transparency, ensuring transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. La CECILIA. Thank you warmly, Mr. CARA, Mr. ZAWADEWICZ, Mr. SHIBATA, and of course, Mr. GESSNER. Thank you all for being with us, for participating. I hope we all have an improved understanding of the various mechanisms, programs which are being put together, which are already delivering results with respect to the resilience, the recovery and the reconstruction, and the future accession of Ukraine to the EU. The challenges are, of course, daunting, but I think the mobilization is also impressive and gives reasons for confidence and optimism. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. And again, very warm congratulations to New Strategy Center for putting this very, very relevant event together. Thank you.